Tom Whalen sitting in for Aaron Rand. There was a story this morning that I saw on the front page of the National Post above the fold about a 10-year-old girl who was rushed to the hospital with seizures. And this is because she downed a couple of large energy drinks. And what was in those energy drinks led to the seizures. We're joined now on the line by Dr. Christopher Labos. He's a familiar voice here on CJAD 800, a regular contributor. He's a cardiologist with a degree in epidemiology. And Dr. Labos, good afternoon, first of all.
Good afternoon.
Nice to talk to you today. You're also on every Sunday morning with Joanne Fracas on Weekends with Joanne. So, but you know that. You don't need me to tell you that. Doctor, this seems to be a bit of a problem, these energy drinks, and they can affect a healthy adult in a strange way. Now, this young girl going into seizures had to go to the hospital because she had two of these energy drinks. What can you tell us about what's in these drinks, and just are they really that dangerous?
Well, it sort of depends. With everything, the question comes down to a question of dose. Now, caffeine is, of course, regularly consumed by everybody. About 90% of all adults on the planet consume caffeine in some way, whether it's in coffee or tea or some other beverage. There are some people who don't drink coffee. These are clearly very subversive individuals that are trying to undermine our democracy. But
yeah, you can't trust a non-coffee drinker.
No, but listen, the truth is most people drink coffee, but most people drink coffee in moderate amounts, well below the threshold at which it's going to cause any issues. But at a high enough dose, caffeine can be toxic. Mm-hmm. Now, it's just that most people are never going to consume that high enough a degree. But there have been cases of people getting caffeine overdoses, usually because of some accidental dosing issue, either in a clinical trial setting, or there were some cases a few years back of teenagers that were ordering these caffeine powders online and giving themselves a healthy scoop of caffeine powder thinking they were getting a normal dose and getting sort of 20 times what the recommended dose were. So there have been rare situations of teenagers dying as a result of accidental overdosing. What we have to remember about these caffeinated energy drinks is that they are caffeinated beverages, right? They contain more or less the same amount of caffeine as a cup of coffee. But, number one, they have a lot of sugar in them, which is not good for anybody. The issue here, though, is not so much the amount of caffeine that's in them, but also the way in which kids tend to consume them. So first off, children are going to be more sensitive to the effects of caffeine than an adult because they are smaller and they are younger, right? So what might be a normal dose of caffeine for you is going to affect the child much more easily. But you, if you're going to drink, how many cups of coffee do you drink over the course of the day? 1, 2, maybe 3. You're drinking those over the course of several hours. Mm-hmm. What happens with energy drinks is that kids tend to what they call pound them. So they'll take one, drink it very quickly, get a second one, drink that quickly again as well, and they may get the equivalent of 4 or 5 cups of coffee over the course of 5 minutes. And so getting that amount of caffeine in a short period of time is going to have potentially deleterious effects. Now, everybody is a little bit different. Some people are more resistant to caffeine. Some people are more sensitive. But you take a younger child who's more sensitive to caffeine and give them a large dose like that in a short period of time, yeah, the caffeine can start to have negative health consequences.
Should there be more regulation on this, like just who can buy these drinks, and maybe similar to alcohol, like you have to be a certain age before you can buy a Red Bull or a Monster or whatever it is that you're drinking?
I think so. There are already limits on the size of these beverages because when they first entered the market, there was sort of no regulations, and you had these monster, that's the name of the brand, but there were these monster large cans that had truly excessive amounts of caffeine in them. So there is regulation about limiting the size, so at least we have that. But, medical groups have been suggesting this. The Canadian Pediatric Society had recommended a ban on energy drinks to anybody under the age of 16, I think was their recommendation. They recommended this back in 2017. It didn't go anywhere. You need lawmakers to pass legislation on this. And, the UK is going through the process of doing something like this. So, I think there is a valid point to be made here. Caffeine is not a benign substance, and while you and I can have coffee and be fine, maybe we shouldn't be selling this stuff to 12, 13, and 14-year-olds. There is an argument to be made that maybe we should be checking ID for this and not selling it to young people who are maybe going to consume 2-3 cans in one shot and put themselves at risk.
Now, I never realized this, but there are different additives in different drinks. Like in Red Bull, apparently there's something called taurine in Red Bull. And what's the difference between taurine and caffeine?
So to your body, there's none, because your body's going to metabolize one into the other. And that is one of the ways in which some of these companies get around the legislation of maximum caffeine doses. So they say the listed ingredients say that there's only, let's say, 200 milligrams of caffeine in a can, which is, again, roughly comparable to a cup of coffee. Mm-hmm. But then they add taurine, and then they add, other things in there that your body's going to metabolize and is also a stimulant. So you might have multiple products in there that are contributing to its stimulant potential. So it might, officially be equivalent to 1 cup of coffee, but it might actually have the same punch as, let's say, 2 cups of coffee, So you start to see how these things can start to stack up and accumulate, where a young person, some extra ingredients, they're drinking 2 of them very quickly. You start to realize this might actually be a pretty excessive dose of coffee. Like, you wouldn't sit down and chug 5 to 10 cups of coffee. No. And yet you could find a situation where a child might get, close to something like that.
And no surprise that they're having an adverse effect. I guess the old rule applies, everything in moderation, right?
Yeah, exactly. And realize that, kids are going to be more sensitive to this. So while, a teenager can start sipping coffee at some point, the issue with these drinks is that they are not coffee. First of all, there's a lot of sugar in them. So just from that point of view, you can make a compelling argument that kids shouldn't be drinking them. They're basically like sodas with extra caffeine in it. So I think you have to realize, they're not dangerous in the sense that they're not poisonous, but you have to be very careful that one is maybe going to be okay for a kid, but you start drinking multiple cans of this, you start getting into an area where there is some, I think, very reasonable cause for concern.
Right. Well, thank you. Always very enlightening and educational when we talk to you, Dr. Labos. And we have a little bit of time here, so plug the book.
Oh, yes. I have a book. It's called Does Coffee Cause Cancer? It doesn't. But it's all about food myths. So if you're ever interested in learning more about various food myths, you go pick up the book wherever books are sold.
Thank you very much, Dr. Labos. Hope to talk to you soon.
All right, talk to you soon.
Take care. That's Dr. Christopher Labos, and basically what he's saying is that these energy drinks can cause a problem, but you shouldn't also not be drinking 7 or 8 of them at a time, or even 2 or 3 for that matter. And young people have more of a reaction to them than someone else who can metabolize the ingredients that are in those drinks.
Canadian women are looking for more out of themselves, their businesses, their elected leaders, and the world around them.
And that's why we're thrilled to introduce the Honest Talk podcast.
I'm Jennifer Stewart.
And I'm Catherine Clark. And in this podcast, we interview Canada's most inspiring women.
Entrepreneurs, artists, athletes, politicians, and newsmakers, all at different stages of their journey.
So if you're looking to connect, then we hope you'll join us.
Listen to the Honest Talk podcast on iHeartRadio or wherever you listen to your podcasts.